Okay, I want to start with a number that is, I mean, it's so big, it's actually hard to wrap your head around.
It really is a staggering figure.
1.47 billion.
Mm.
That's the rough number of people living in India right now. And, if you've been scrolling the news at all, you've seen the headline.
Oh, yeah, it's everywhere.
India has officially surpassed China. It is now the most populated country on the planet.
It's a huge shift. I mean, for the first time in centuries, that demographic center of gravity has moved.
But here's where it gets, for me, really interesting and honestly a bit baffling.
Okay.
When you actually look at a map, India isn't that big. I mean, it's a big country, but it's not, Russia or Canada.
Solos.
We're talking about a country that holds about 18% of the entire human population.
18%.
But it's sitting on just 2% of the world's land area.
And that's the core tension right there. You have nearly a fifth of all humanity squeezed onto this tiny fraction of the Earth's surface.
Exactly. And when you hear a stat like that, 18% of people on 2% of land, your mind immediately goes to a negative place.
Mm-hmm. The word overpopulation comes up.
Instantly. You hear overpopulation, you think poverty, lack of education, all these modern problems. It's framed as this modern crisis.
Right. It's almost always presented as a failure of policy or development. The assumption is that, if India were just richer or more educated, it wouldn't be this crowded.
But today, for this deep dive, we're going to flip that script completely, because the sources we've looked at suggest that almost everything we assume about why India is so crowded is, well, it's wrong.
Or at least it's missing the real point. We're going to find out this isn't really a story about economics or birth rates or modern politics.
So what is it about?
At its heart, it's a story about geology.
Geology, like rocks and rivers.
Rocks, rivers, and tectonic plates. If you want to understand why there are 1.47 billion people in India, you have to stop looking at the census data from last year and start looking at the ground beneath their feet. Geography is destiny here.
See, I love this. I came in here ready to talk about, family planning and urbanization.
Unusual suspects.
Yeah, and you're telling me this is actually a story about a continental collision that happened 50 million years ago.
It is. It's about a geological secret hidden in the Earth. But before we get to that prehistoric car crash, we have to clear up that big misconception.
The idea that this is all a modern problem.
Exactly. People always point to certain regions, right?
Oh, definitely. The spotlight is always on states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. They're always the center of the crisis conversation. And to be fair, the numbers are. They're wild.
How wild are we talking?
Well, one article had this comparison that it blew my mind. It said if you took just Uttar Pradesh and Bihar,
Just those two states.
and made them their own independent country,
Okay.
they would be the third most populated nation on Earth.
You're kidding.
370 million people. That's more than the United States, more than Indonesia.
Oh, that is a staggering statistic. And it's easy to look at that and say, see, runaway growth due to poverty.
Right.
But this is where we need to kind of time travel. Because if you look at the historical data, this density isn't a new thing at all. It's not a modern accident.
So we're not talking about the last 100 years.
No, we need to go back way further. There's this incredible data from the British economist Angus Madigan. He reconstructed historical economies. And if you look at his data from the year 1 AD,
The year one.
all the way up to 1000 AD, India's population was consistently just massive.
How massive?
For that entire millennium, India accounted for roughly 30% of the world's population.
Wait. 30%. So let me get this straight. For 1,000 years, 1 out of every 3 people on the entire planet was Indian.
Exactly. Now, compare that to today. Today, it's about every 6th person.
So proportionally, India was actually more crowded in the past than it is now.
More dominant, yeah. And that just shatters the modern overpopulation theory.
Yeah.
If it's been this way for thousands of years, it can't just be about modern issues.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
It's a feature of the geography. And that brings us back to the big question, why? Why has this one patch of Earth always been such a magnet for humanity?
It has to go back to the basics, right? Where do civilizations start?
Water and fertile land.
Yeah.
It's the universal rule. You see it in Mesopotamia. You see it in Egypt along the Nile. Civilization is an agriculture game. If you can grow food, you can make people.
And India, it seems, is just very, very good at that game.
India basically won the geological lottery.
Okay, so this is where we get to what the sources call the super region, the Indo-Gangetic Plain.
The largest continuous fertile plain in the world.
It's hard to overstate the scale of this thing. We're talking 700,000 square kilometers.
It's enormous.
It stretches all the way from Pakistan through North India, so you've got Punjab, Delhi, UP, Bihar, and all the way to Bangladesh.
And here's the kicker. That single strip of land, right now, supports 11% of the entire human population.
One strip of land holds 1 in every 10 humans. So how did it get there? What's the origin story?
This is the really cool part. It starts about 50 million years ago. The Indian tectonic plate, which had broken off from a supercontinent, just slams into the Eurasian plate.
A slow-motion car crash on a planetary scale.
That's a great way to put it. And that collision did two things. First, it pushed the land up, creating the Himalayas.
The highest mountains on Earth.
But second, and this is the key part, it created a massive depression, like a giant ditch right at the foot of those mountains.
So you have the highest peaks and this huge trough right next to them.
Exactly. And for the next 1.7 million years, all the rivers flowing down from those new mountains did one thing.
What's that?
They filled that depression with silt, sediment, sand.
Alluvium.
Yes, all this incredibly soft, incredibly fertile alluvial soil. You've got the Indus, the Ganga, the Brahmaputra, all dumping nutrient-rich soil into this trough for eons.
So nature basically spent 2 million years building the perfect farm.
That's it. It's a geological terraforming project.
Yeah.
And humans figured this out very early on. The Indus Valley civilization, 4,000 years ago, peaked at 4 to 6 million people.
Which for that time was huge.
It was likely the most populated place on Earth.
Yeah.
China's Yellow River civilization was maybe 3.5 million. So this whole story of India is crowded is 4,000 years old.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate. There are other places with big rivers and flatland, so why is India's density so unique? Or is it?
That is the perfect question. And the answer is actually surprising because we have this bias, We see density in the global south and call it overpopulation, but we see it in the west and we call it urbanization or efficiency.
Right.
But if we look at Europe, specifically a couple of countries, the Netherlands and Belgium, they completely contradict our stereotypes.
Yeah, this part of the research stood out. I mean, when I think of the Netherlands, I think windmills, tulips, not crushing human density.
Well, get ready for this. The Netherlands has a population density of 531 people per square kilometer.
Okay, and just to remind everyone, what's India's average?
India's average is 484.
Wait, hold on. So you're telling me the Netherlands is actually more densely populated than India?
It is. On average, yes.
Yeah.
And Belgium isn't far behind at 386.
That completely flips the script. Why?
For the exact same reason as India. Geography. The Netherlands sits on the incredibly fertile river deltas of the Rhine, the Meuse, and the Scheldt.
Fertile land equals people.
It's the iron law. Doesn't matter if you're in Asia or Europe. If the land can feed you, the population will grow.
That's a huge aha moment. So if fertile land is the key, why didn't Egypt or China get more populated than India? I mean, the Nile is legendary.
It's all about scale and consistency. Look at Egypt. The Nile Valley is this giver of life, but it's tiny. It's only about 33,000 square kilometers of farmable land.
Compared to the Indo-Gangetic Plains.
It's 700,000. It's not even in the same league. The Nile is a thin, green strip in a vast desert. 95% of Egyptians live within 20 kilometers of that river.
They just don't have the space.
No space. And China, the North China Plain is big, about 400,000 square kilometers, but it lacks India's secret weapon. And this is where we get into the triple benefit. This combination of features that no one else really has.
All right, let's break this down. The triple benefit.
Benefit number one, the Himalayas themselves, they're often called the third pole.
The third pole.
Because they hold more ice and fresh water than anywhere on Earth outside the Arctic and Antarctic. It's a giant water tower sitting right above the farm.
Okay, so that's a consistent water source from the glaciers.
Exactly. But the mountains do something else, which is benefit number two. They act as a wall.
A wall against what?
Against the weather. The monsoon clouds come up from the ocean, travel north across India, and then they just slam into the Himalayas. They can't cross into Tibet.
They hit the rock wall.
And they're forced to dump all of that rain right onto India. The mountains literally trap the rain.
So you get water from the rivers, and you get a massive annual dump of rain.
It's a double dose of water. And then there's benefit number three, temperature control.
This is about stopping the cold.
Yes. Those same mountains that trap the rain also block the freezing cold air blowing down from Central Asia and Siberia.
Right, because North India is at the same latitude as places that get really cold winters.
Exactly. But the Himalayas act as a shield. They keep the winters mild.
So let's put it all together. You've got the richest soil, unlimited water from two sources, and a climate that never really freezes. What does that mean for a farmer?
It means what the sources call the killer feature of Indian agriculture.
And that is
Double harvests.
two harvests a year. That sounds simple, but historically, that's a superpower.
It's everything. In Europe, winter stops everything. In many parts of China, water is the limit. But in India, for thousands of years, you can grow wheat in the winter and then rice in the summer.
It's a simple math problem. If you can grow twice the food, you can support twice the people.
Precisely. Megasthenes, a Greek ambassador around 300 BC, wrote about this. He was stunned. He said India never faced famine because they always had this second crop as a backup.
Which brings us to a darker part of the story. Because if India was this famine-proof engine, why is there such a history of famine? And why did China eventually pull ahead in population for a while?
This is the disruption. We have to talk about the British Raj.
The sources call it a dark exception to the natural history of the region.
And it was. Between 1770 and 1947, during the colonial period, India suffered 25 major famines. And the data shows these weren't nature failing, they were policy failures.
The numbers are they're horrific. The sources say 30 to 35 million Indians died of starvation in that period.
Yeah, to put that in perspective for you, World War I killed about 8.5 million people in combat. Total. The famines in India under the Raj killed almost 4 times that many.
And the sources mention specific ones, like the Great Bengal Famine of 1770.
Wiped out a third of the population of Bengal. 10 million people dead. And then as recently as 1943, another 3 million died because grain was being exported to support the war effort in World War II.
So China pulled ahead not just because China grew, but because India's growth was being artificially suppressed by starvation.
The geological engine was sabotaged. But, and this shows you the power of geography, as soon as independence happened in 1947, the famine stopped.
And the engine just turned right back on.
The population doubled by 1981. It crossed 1 billion by 2001. Then you get the Green Revolution in the 60s.
I loved this detail. The harvest was so massive they ran out of places to put it.
They were storing grain in schools, in movie theaters. That's how productive this land is when it's allowed to function.
Okay, so that brings us to today. India is back at the top. But is this growth just going to continue forever? Are we looking at 2 billion people? 3 billion?
Actually, no. And this is another one of those huge myths we need to bust. We have this image of a population explosion that's out of control.
Right.
But the explosion is effectively over.
Really? But the number's still going up.
It has momentum. It's like a giant freight train trying to slow down. But the fertility rate itself has crashed. India's total fertility rate is now 1.9.
And the replacement level, the number you need to stay stable, is what?
It's about 2.1 children per woman. India is already below that.
So eventually the population will start to shrink.
Yes. It's projected to peak around 2060 and then start a slow decline. And if you look at the southern states, like Kerala or Tamil Nadu, their fertility rates are already down at 1.3, 1.5. That's European levels.
So the human side of the equation is stabilizing.
Exactly. The demographic crisis is solving itself. But, and there's always a but.
I knew it. It sounded too good to be true.
The demographic threat is fading, but a much bigger threat is emerging. The very geological blessing that created all this, it's under attack.
Climate change.
Climate change. And it's hitting that third pole, the Himalayas, incredibly hard. Between 2010 and 2019, Himalayan glaciers melted 65% faster than in the decade before.
65% faster. That is a terrifying acceleration.
It is. Snow persistence, which is how long snow stays on the ground, is at a 23-year low. Some projections say we could lose a third to a half of all Himalayan ice by 2100.
And if the ice goes, the rivers go.
Well, first they flood. As the ice melts too fast, you get these massive bursts of water.
Long term.
Yes. The flow of the Indus, the Ganga, the Brahmaputra, it dwindles. The water tower is emptying.
And it's not just the ice, right? The monsoons are getting weird.
Erratic, unpredictable. A warmer atmosphere holds more moisture, so when it rains, it pours. You get devastating floods.
Yeah.
In 2022 alone, extreme weather wiped out 5 million acres of crops in India.
Floods one month, droughts the next.
Exactly. And because the rain is so unreliable, farmers are pumping groundwater out of that ancient plain faster than it can be replaced.
So the whole engine is starting to overheat. We're risking the very geography that made this all possible.
You have 1.4 billion people depending on a water cycle that's been stable for millennia.
And if that cycle breaks,
then geography stops being a blessing and starts becoming a curse.
that is a really sobering thought to end on.
It is. The key takeaway here is that India isn't overpopulated by accident. It was geographically designed to hold this many people. But that design is fragile.
So when we look at India, we shouldn't just see crowds.
You should see the Himalayas, see the rivers. Understand that this population is a direct result of the most fertile landscape on Earth. And then understand that this same landscape is now in a race against time.
A race between its own natural history and our human-induced climate change.
That's the story. The land has fed the people for 4,000 years. The question now is, can we protect the land so it can keep doing that?
A massive question. We've gone from tectonic plates to melting glaciers. It really changes how you look at the world.
It really does. You can't separate the people from the planet they live on.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. We hope you look at those population charts a little differently now.
Thanks for listening.
We'll catch you on the next one.